Welcome back to Post-Traumatic Thriving. I am Dr. Randall Bell. I'm here with my co-host Tanya and JC the man. And we have covered some really a crazy ride for both of you. Losing your sister to murder, being incarcerated for murder. If you haven't listened to the prior episodes, listen. They are the most powerful things I've heard in a long time, if not, for a very long time. So don't skip ahead. Listen to these incredible stories.
Yeah.
We're going to kick this off with talking about survival, just getting back on your feet. Now, I don't mean to sound self-righteous or judgmental. Some people that are knocked down, they never get back on their feet. I happen to know enough of your stories you did, but I don't mean in any respect to someone that gets knocked down and stays down, right? Because we haven't been through what they've been through,
right.
But we're going to talk about, you got to, before, when you dive, you got to survive before you thrive. You got to get back on your feet. Mm-hmm. So sticking with that theme of survival, JC, you're in prison. What does survival look like to you? And tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, there was a defining moment for me in the level 4 maximum security prison. And there was going to be an incident where a murder was going to occur. Me and my cellie knew about it. There was a guy that was from the Bay Area, had a drug habit, something that I was familiar with in my background. He couldn't pay for the drugs. He had already been told numerous times, stop getting things that you cannot pay for, because the car, the area, or we're not going to cover that.
Is that the short for cartel?
No, not the cartel. The car in prison is your neighborhood. So everyone from the Bay Area, that's the Bay car. LA would be the LA car.
Okay.
So just the neighborhood.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
And so Bay Area guys were saying, nope, we got to make an example. This guy had already been told not to do this, and he was still going to do it. And so there was a plan to stab this individual, and $125 was the debt owed. Me and my cellie went to other folks and said, hey, we will cover the dude's debt. This is not worth trying to take this man's life over $125. He's an addict. And we were told, nope, it's about the principle. It's prison politics. We have to do things a certain way. He's been told. And because it was dealing with another race, when you cross those boundaries with race and drugs in prison, it intensifies. And so that made the problem worse. They didn't want to take our $125 to squash the debt. And so we were on our way to Chow. And once me and my cellie realized that they're going to stab this dude, once we get back up and start headed to the building, now I'm thinking about survival, because in prison, when stabbings happen, the gunmen, they shoot. And sometimes you don't have to be near the incident that's happening in order to get hit by those bullets. And so I'm walking, and I know it's getting ready to happen, and it's like, get to the building before the yard goes down. Mm-hmm. And I'm maybe 20, 30 yards away from the door to the building, and they're behind me, and I could already hear it. It's 3 of them on this one guy, and they're stabbing him up.
Oh.
And you hear the alarm go, and the get down. And here I am, I'm 19 years old. Salinas Valley State Prison had just opened, and there was mud on the ground. And when you say prone out, when they say mean prone out, you lay down on your belly, arms out to the side, and you stay there until they tell you to get up. And I remember laying there on the ground and saying, here I am, a grown ass man, and I can't control getting up off of a muddy, wet ground.
Oh yeah.
And I recall when they cleared the incident, they did what they did. Everyone got handcuffed, and I stood up, and my whole front side was covered in mud. And I remember taking my hands and wiping down my chest and looking at the mud on my hands, and almost in a trance, I walked back to my cell, and I was on a lower bunk, and I sat down, and I just bawled. I cried from a place that I don't think I've ever cried from. And I remember thinking, this is what the next 25 years of my life is going to be like. I don't have enough power or control to get up off of a ground. I said, something has got to change. And so that incident right then, I said, my stupidity got me into this mess. I'll be damned if I allow it to keep me here. And I embraced education with everything that I had, anything that I could get to help me expand my mind and my thought process and to think critically and evaluate situations. That's exactly what I did. Things that people would shoot me magazines, and I would have the library for them, and I would consume materials and books. I was educating myself in the way that I knew how. before I ever had
Wow.
gotten into college.
Wow.
Wow. So your
Amazing.
survival skill was immersing into education.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that was a conscientious decision.
Yes.
It wasn't an accident. You didn't wander there. You made a decision.
I made a choice.
That's why we say, die,
choice.
survive, or thrive. The choice
It's
is
a
yours.
choice, right? The choice is
Yep.
yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Thanks, JC.
Absolutely.
That's powerful.
And that as I understand your story, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that the survival skill that got you through,
It
years
was
and
one
years?
of them. So education was one. That
Tell
was
us
a
the
place
other.
that I
Or
felt
the
safe.
others.
The other was my faith.
Hmm.
My
Beautiful.
faith. Before I ever went and got incarcerated, did my crime, I questioned God because of the trauma that I grew up in. I said, if there's a God, why would kids have to go through what I went through?
Right.
Yeah.
And if there really is a God, then you must not love me or my family.
Right.
And so I have this resentment towards religion and faith. But when I was in San Quintin, an interesting thing happened. I went to the chapel in San Quintin once I got there, and this peace, it's hard for me to even describe it, but I'm sitting in the back pews and I'm listening to the message, and this peace fell over me, and I was where I was supposed to be at that moment in my life. And that was comforting because I knew that God, the way that I understood him, he had me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And everywhere I went, there's always a bird. I have this thing about birds
Uh-huh.
and birds in prison. And every day in San Quintin, there would be a bird that used to come right in front of my cell
Oh my gosh.
and sit right on the bar. And so when I was in the county jail, after I got sentenced, got the verdict, got sentenced, and I'm crying, I had this rosary around my neck, and I had snatched that off and threw it across the cell. And I look outside my window and I see these flock of birds. And through my tears, I said, man, God, if you're real, make these birds go away. And I look back over my shoulder and the birds just went.
Kind of a
I
sign.
believe in that. It's a total
The
sign.
birds just left.
Wow.
And ever since then, every
beautiful.
prison that I went to, there's always been a bird that has always come.
Really?
Always.
Wow.
That's
Always.
amazing.
So my faith and education was my two pillars.
And did you think about this as a survival skill? I mean, did you think of that this is what's going to get me through the hell I'm going through?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, JC, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Those are really powerful
It's
principles.
inspirational.
Yeah. All right.
Hopeful.
So I'm going to ask Tanya, same question. You're home. The trial's over. Life's a lot different. You don't have your sister. She's not
Mhm.
coming back in this lifetime. What did your survival story look like?
My survival story kind of came 10 years later.
Well, let's go there.
Yeah, it came 10 years later. We've talked about numerous times, either in our own conversations here or out, talking to, the community, where you've got to face your trauma as you're going through it, or you maybe not when you're going through it, but talk to somebody about this.
Mhm.
I didn't face my fear or my grief at all. I came from like World War II parents, pick up yourself by the bootstrap. Don't feel your feelings, paint the house, get a job at Starbucks, whatever you do, just don't feel, they never told me not to feel, but I was living life by example. They're German on top of it and World War II. So I thought, okay, this is life. This is the new normal. I'm just going to pick up and live life as is. This is the card these are the cards that I was dealt. I'm just going to live this deal out. And, well, it all caught up with me 10 years later. My wedding, I had a trigger, and it was a cancellation of my wedding. And triggers are huge because you don't know when they're going to show up. You don't know how they're going to show up. You don't know when they're going to show up. And my trigger happened in September, or actually October 9, 2004, and my wedding was canceled. But it was the exact trigger that I needed for me to finally face all the loss, not just Nicole, but all the losses that I had, gone through in high school and, with my friend Harissa and Troy, all my losses, whether it's, a physical loss or a loss of a job, a cat, abandonment, right? And it was almost like when I was, in high school, it was almost like, don't be my friend because I'm afraid that you'll die or go away. So all that stuff came up. And on October 9th, I literally snapped. I snapped in a big way. We had a family friend of ours over. He said something. I don't even know what it was. But but I got up. I'm 5'11", daddy's 5'7", mom's 5'5". I got up. Everybody, I guess, got up with me. And it was highly, highly volatile. It was not just dynamic. It was volatile. I got in my dad's face. I almost hit him, which you just don't do that to people, yet alone Lou Brown. I blame my mom and my dad for Nicole's murder. Don't even know where that came from. I left the living room, and Denise grabbed me by the shoulders, and she says, "You need coping skills." And I'm like, what the hell are those? Like, what does that even mean? But I mean, F-bombs were going off, it was very, very crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean crazy. And I just flailed her arms off of me, and I went to my bedroom, and I was on an anti-anxiety prescription Klonopin, and I poured the whole bottle of Klonopin in my left hand. And I always had my bottle of red wine handy along with my Klonopin. Wasn't taking my medication as prescribed. And as I was taking the pills to my mouth, my sister Dominique came in and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "Get me out of here before I hurt myself or someone around me." Because I was in that state. I know rage because I had rage that night. Who knows what I could have done? We're all human people. We're all human beings. We're capable of anything. This is why, it's important to study emotional intelligence. I mean, I'm still working on it, but it was very, very scary and violent. And, but thank God that I was able to be totally cognizant of and aware of, I ain't right. Something's going on. And my mom's first reaction was like, "Oh my God, my kid's going crazy over a breakup." And I said, "Mom, this is not a breakup. This is not because of Michael. This is something bigger. And I don't know what it is, but it was like, I felt it inside, like demons were like consuming me. It was crazy. And it was scary. It was so scary." And so my sister Dominique took me up to my best girlfriend's home. And the next day she called me, and I'm in my blue pajama, and my famous blue pajama that I wore for like 6 days. She says, "Are you ready?" And I said, "I'm ready." And she goes, "Okay, South Coast Medical, which is now Mission Laguna, they have a bed for you." And I said, "Take me." And I willfully went. And that saved my life. And those people didn't save my life. They helped me save my own life. Like your Sully, right? It's like you have certain people in your life. They don't help you save your life, but my nurses, my social workers, my occupational therapists, my cognitive behavioral therapist, my psychiatrist, like I had a posse. I had my own little posse to help me get through this. But I'm not kidding you. I'm sitting in these groups going, okay, I'm like in this little isolated one-time incident here, right? But I'm in a room filled with people who have lifelong battles of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, schizoaffective. I mean, real serious stuff. And that's when I've always been empathic, but it took this like to a whole other level where I had so much empathy, not sympathy. I had so much empathy for every person, every patient who was on that floor and in that room every single day doing the work that it took to get well. It inspired me, to get back into school. But I remember sitting in this one class. I never called them a group. I called it the University of Life. I was sitting in this class, and my occupational therapist, Carol Hawley, God bless her soul, she whipped my butt. I'll tell you that much. That girl whipped my butt every single day. And I said, "Carol, what is this? Like, this is really working." And it was cognitive behavioral therapy. And so for anybody who's listening, it's a great therapy modality. Modality is like a therapy style. And I'm just like looking at this going, I got it. So I learned how to change my perspective. I learned how to do the positive self-talk. I learned how to catch myself when I start going down that rabbit hole of despair. So that really, really helped me. And then after my inpatient, it was highly suggested I go into an outpatient program where I was there for 2.5 months. So altogether, I was inpatient and outpatient for 3 months. But it was those classes that really, really helped me.
Wow, that's really fascinating. I mean, here's how I'm kind of putting this together. JC, you identified two things: your faith and your education. That's what got you really through a horrific prison incarceration experience. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there were two of the bigger ones, but what Tanya's speaking to too with the groups and CBT, a lot of that for me as well too.
Really?
Yeah, and the thing about post-traumatic thriving, we're gonna delve into all of these in different episodes. I'm gonna just tell you right now, JC, if you're willing, we're gonna have you back lots of time. If you're willing. I
am willing. You have it on tape. I am willing.
A new home here. I want to ask you real quick, Tanya, to kind of cut to it. What if you want to name 2 or 3 just specific coping skills? JC mentioned faith and education. What were your 2 or 3? What, just name the 3.
Just to tag on to what you said too, faith is the one thing also that got my family through this. We would at 3:00 in the morning show up at the dining room table all together and like read letters and, so faith. Yeah, that was one thing. You got to talk about it. You got to talk about it, whatever your it is, you've got to talk about it. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel my grief. So whatever it is that you're going through, you got to talk about it. And then also, you got to nurture yourself. We live in a really crazy world. We're busy. There's things to do all the time. We've got to slow our brains down, not just our lifestyle, but our brains are like so on fire all the time. And that's where the anxiety and depression and hopelessness can easily creep into your life. So nurture yourself. That could be, take a walk, in the mountains, wherever you are, on the beach, play with your dog, go outside.
So self-care, faith,
Mm-hmm.
which is a common denominator I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
And
talk about it.
And talking about it. In prison, you taught me this concept, JC. I'm sure you remember. In prison, what do you folks call talking about it?
Oh, sitting in the fire?
Yeah.
Sitting in the fire.
Sitting in the fire.
Yeah. And that's one of the, in my book, where we talk about post-traumatic thriving, I want people to start healing right away.
Yeah.
I mean, not just, I don't want you to go to chapter 15 before you get it. And the 2 things I mentioned are, 1, sitting in the fire. You can never survive a trauma as a solo exercise. It doesn't happen. You guys both agree?
Yes.
Okay. We're all there's a trilogy of agreement here. So sitting in the fire. And also the other thing I learned really from you, JC, was grounding. You want to spend a second on grounding?
Yeah, absolutely. So
good.
that's grounding for me is another self-care practice where, people, different faiths, different nationalities call it different things, but really grounding is simply getting in touch with your own body, your own sensations, and slowing things like Tanya said, just slowing your brain down along with the rest of your body. And so grounding, when you're talking about traumatic experiences, it's very easy for folks to detach from their emotions and to detach from their bodies. And when things are coming up for them, usually I will stop them in sessions or in groups and say, acknowledge you're sitting in the fire right now and it's very uncomfortable. And I could see that you want to move and jump out of this space that we're in, but I'm going to invite you to sit there with it. And so part of the sitting there is talking them through some breathing exercises and just simply slowing down the rhythm, the pace, and just sitting with whatever emotion or thought is present.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And, just for our listeners, grounding in prison is called grounding because if you use the word meditation, that might conjure up religion or Buddhism, which are, in my mind, they're great things, but not in everybody's mind. So using a more, universally accepted word grounding, but we're talking about deep breathing exercises. So we're talking about the survival techniques, how to to get out of the dive stage into the survive stage. Let's list them let's just knock them off. Faith. You both agreed on grounding exercises, deep breathing,
education,
talking about
it, which is sitting in the fire,
nurture yourself,
self-care. We go, as I think about it, correct me if I'm wrong in your minds, you go from self-medication, the drugs, the workaholism, the any ism, drug addiction, all of that is self medication.
Right.
We want to transfer from self-medication to self-care, which I'm glad you brought up, Tanya.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the formula we see, kind of over and over again. I mean, we're kind of blitzing through some really powerful concepts. They're all simple. There's nothing, you don't have to build a space shuttle to do this stuff, but it's not necessarily easy to have the discipline to sit down deep breathing exercises every day, finding someone to have those ugly conversations. I mean, anyone can talk, but finding the right person to talk to and actually opening up about this ugly stuff, which has actually been modeled here, I think, brilliantly today.
Instead of saying maybe talk about it, process it, because I was talking about stuff to my friends and all of that, but I think it's the process. Like talk about your problems, your anxiety, whatever it is that you're going through, but process it. Just don't talk about it.
You're almost reliving the emotions.
Yeah.
And, and JC, I mean, I know it was a really uncomfortable moment in, a little while ago where, we're talking about, you got to take a break. You modeled self-care. If it's too much, take a break.
Take a break.
And I want to thank you for that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to add something really quick.
Yeah, please.
Randy, I think it's important because at least when working with incarcerated individuals, it's a struggle to be vulnerable. And so before we can start talking about, some of these coping skills and strategies, people have to have a willingness to open up and be vulnerable. And the fear in that is a lot of time there's judgment, there's concern, there's shame, there's guilt that comes up. But being vulnerable also is a door opening to freedom and peace. And so if people, Brene Brown talks about it all the time in her work, but we need to invite people to be vulnerable and create safe and brave spaces for people to do so.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to transition right now from we've talked about the baseline. Baseline's pre-trauma. We've talked about the incident, the triggers, the verdict in both your cases, the explosion. What's interesting about your story, Tanya, is it took 10 years to really hit rock bottom. I mean, you had the murder of your sister, which is horrific, but it wasn't like, okay, next day it's time to start back. No. You were, 10 years. The skill sets we're delivering on this podcast, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it could have taken you from 10 years maybe to more like, had you known these skills, it could have been a much shorter time. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why we're doing this thing, is to deliver these skills, which quite frankly, spoiler alert, I learned a lot of it from JC. JC's my man. Okay. One of the most brilliant guys on the planet. And this is where we're going to transition. We've talked about the crime. We've talked about the shock. We've talked about the dive stage. We've talked about some survival. And just for the podcast listeners, we're going to get into lots of self-care.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to talk a lot about the techniques from lots of different people, not just JC's awesome. We're going to have JC back as much as we can get him, but we got, more people to bring to this party to really put some meat on the bones of this discussion. But now we're going to transition from not just survival. We'll come back and visit that in future episodes, but thriving.
Yeah.
Because I know you both have done some crazy things. Tanya, give us a couple riff for a minute or two about the thrive stage, what you're really proud about. And if you're not going to brag about yourself, I will, but I'm going to let you have a first shot and kind of talking about that moment where you realize, hey, I'm okay. In fact, not only that, I'm doing some cool things, because I know the work you've done and your sister have done have literally saved lives. It's got to be pretty satisfying to realize my life has purpose, because I went through this hellhole of an experience to inspire others. Yeah. And riff.
For sure. Okay. So after the murder, Denise, everybody grieves differently. So my dad initially started the Nicole Brown Charitable Foundation to raise money for battered women's shelters. And then he started to retire, and then Denise came in and, she started to do her advocacy. And so we closed the foundation, I think probably about 10 or 12 years ago. I wasn't very active in it. I mean, we went to a couple of the fundraisers. Yeah. I did community education. And so that's something that I still keep up, doing the community education. I love doing, I'm an educator. I love it. Right. And so I'm very proud of that, not just because of that we accomplished that, just knowing that Nicole didn't die in vain. Like, we easily could have allowed that to happen where, trauma happens, stuff happens. So it's like, okay, she's gone. Let's do something with this. Mm-hmm. And initially we were going to start for pediatric AIDS. And then we started getting letters when domestic violence was admitted into the court process. That's when we listened to the people. We listened to people who will be listening to this podcast, we listen to you, and that, we've saved a lot of lives. Still today, we get emails, not text messages, but emails, messengers on Facebook. If it wasn't for your sister, I don't know where I'd be. If it wasn't for your sister, I think I'd be dead. So, I mean, still today, we're going on 28 years in June. So that to me is baffling that people still remember Nicole, which is very heartwarming. I also got my master's, so I'm very excited about that. That's a huge accomplishment.
It is. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Next time I set foot on a college campus, they're going to pay me.
Nice.
But one thing, we've really, we've moved far along, going back to 2004, we didn't talk about mental illness. We didn't talk about this stuff, back in 2004. Right. It was always there. But then, but something happened in 2012. I wrote a book, Finding Peace Amid the Chaos, My Escape from Depression and Suicide, where I mentioned a lot of 12 tools that I learned when I was in the hospital. But again, in 2012, we weren't talking about the things that we're talking about today. Mm-hmm. So it was
it was a whole thing where there was kind of this void of discussion before the trial.
Yeah.
Literally what your family went through and the choices within your family, which I happen to have been there for some of it, literally transformed the landscape and the discussion points, because now I've been at events, particularly with your sister Denise, where there was a line out the door of women thanking her profusely because she opened up the conversation.
That's it.
I mean, who wants to sit around and talk about domestic violence? It's one of the most ugly topics.
It's ugly.
You live through it. You live through it. I mean, there's a common thing here.
It's ugly.
And who wants to sit in your free time and talk about domestic violence?
But we did.
But you did. Yeah. And now a lot of women and men, for that matter,
for sure,
have the courage to deal with this BS and do something about it, have some tools put in their tool box to do something about it. And we can thank in large part the fact that your family have channeled energy into opening up that conversation. When I think of you and your thriving, it's tapping into that fuel of that tragedy and doing something really remarkable with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks. And you're welcome. And, again, talking about the mental health piece where now we're talking about it.
Right.
So now I'm really pursuing, I work in drug and alcohol,
You do give speeches all over the country. I was at Orange County Airport. I sent you a text once. You're at the next gate giving the speech.
That's right. I was on my way.
True story.
That's funny. We still have the picture. But I'm doing coaching. I'm going to start doing mastermind groups and just really get back into the community again, because we are talking about it. It's really relevant in today's culture now.
Right. So thank you. JC, my man. All right. You're up. Cause I know some of your story. If you hold back on your bragging, I'm going to
brag for you.
You know me. I don't do well bragging about myself.
I'll help, go ahead. Talk about it, dude.
Well, things that I'm really super proud of is this one, just speaking to my resiliency, regardless of what life throws at me, I bounce back. I feel like resiliency is my superpower. But education, I embraced it fully. And so when I paroled on a Friday.
After how many years, JC?
After 22 years.
Jeez.
And the night before, God is good. So the night before I was due to be paroled, I got my AA degree while I was inside of San Quintin. I got 2 degrees while I was inside of San Quintin, actually. But the director of the Prison University Project, which was called back then, now it's Mount Tampa Pius College, she told me about a program in Orange County called Project Rebound at Cal State Fullerton that was opening up. They're starting this new thing, and I think you would be great at school. You should pursue your education. And she was the very first person to say, you need a doctorate. You need to get your PhD.
I thought I was the first.
You were not. You were not.
Man.
You were not.
Shoot, man.
And so then I'm like, doctorate, that's so far. I don't have an AA degree then. And so she asked my permission if she can pass my information along to the program director. That's sure, fine. So paroled on a Friday. That Tuesday, I was on Cal State Fullerton's campus meeting the program director and the executive director of Project Rebound, introducing myself and the world, everything.
After 22
years, everything's new. The campus, so intimidating. And for the first time, I felt very, very small on that huge campus. But long story short, got enrolled in school, never left the campus since then, so 72 hours post-release, I've been at Cal State Fullerton, graduated, as you know.
I was there.
Wow.
I was
With-
that voice in the back. There was a lot of people cheering for you.
There was.
And JC, you're not bragging enough. Okay,
You did.
you not just graduated from college. You graduated with honors.
I did.
I didn't graduate with honors, but JC, my man, graduated with honors.
I did.
Okay, so I'm a little jealous, but yeah.
So yeah, definitely graduated with honors, decided to pursue my master's in social work. I have a heart for community and people and families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really a passion for system impacted folks who
Right.
share similar experiences as I did.
Right.
Got
sure.
into a couple of master's programs, decided on Cal State Long Beach, which I'm so proud to say, graduating with honors again.
Yay.
I have
In
all
May,
A
right?
in May. So
Yeah.
4 months
I'm
away.
going
Are
to
we
be there.
invited?
Well, I am
I hope
invited.
so.
Can I bring
If I
Tanya?
get enough tickets, Tanya, you can
Plus
come.
one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm proud to say that my grades in grad school is even better than they were in undergrad.
Wow.
And they were good in undergrad.
It was good enough to get me a
Yeah.
yeah.
And so what about this PhD thing?
So PhD is next. I'm hoping to start that in the fall. I'm
Yeah.
already applying to schools.
You are starting that in the fall.
Fingers crossed I get accepted, which I think I'll have a good chance, based off of just my experience, what I bring to the table, my grades, academic success. I should get in, So
You'll get there.
so I got a couple more years of school to do, but also what I'm passionate about is I still go inside of correctional facilities
Yeah.
and sit in groups and talk about early childhood trauma and helping folks like me understand that these processes, these experiences impact how we move through the world and how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's something about, and you've been in spaces inside, Randy, in these
yeah.
groups, the magic that's in that group that you don't
Wow.
see in the community,
Wow.
Amazing.
it's hard to capture. And unless you experience it, describing it doesn't do it justice. And so I really feel like a breath of fresh air when I'm back inside of correctional spaces, running and facilitating trauma work with
Nice.
folks. So I contracted with Uncommon Law, been working with them now. And Uncommon Law, great law firm that is really intentional
Mhm.
about doing justice differently when it comes to our criminal justice system.
Yeah.
And
I
so
like that.
they hire formerly incarcerated folks on their staff to be peer navigators. Me as a clinical therapist, I'm a part of their team, and I do clinical counseling via legal call since I can't get access because of COVID right
Mhm.
now, and providing therapy and counseling for folks that's still on the inside, helping them build out a trauma curriculum that we'll be doing in the California state prison system.
Awesome.
Super duper happy about that. And just working with the city of Long Beach, facilitating parenting classes for system impacted dads trying to get their kids back together, and just to help them be better men and fathers and
Mhm.
community members. So that's a little bit about what I got
Well, that's a
going
little
on.
bit. I got more.
Do you sleep? Do you
Yeah.
sleep?
No, the guy's insanely amazing. I've known both of you
You're a
guys for a
cyborg.
long time. I'm glad we're all getting together for this party. JC, a few more things I think you left out of the whole bragging thing.
Yes.
JC has set literal world history. First person ever in the history of the world to give a TED Talk while incarcerated.
That's amazing.
What was that
I
like
hoping
for you,
were
JC?
gonna go there.
That was a big deal. We were when it was brought to my attention, I'm a founding member of a program called The Last Mile.
Uh-huh.
And when we started, The Last Mile was really focused on teaching incarcerated folks how to become entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
business owners,
Yeah.
And so we kind of evolved since then, and now it incorporates computer programming. But the founder of that, Chris Retlitz and Beverly Parenti, knew that I was a spoken word artist. And when they heard me perform, they were so moved, and they was like, we need to show the world this gift. And John Legend, who was doing his campaign,
Right.
reached out to them and said, hey, we're looking for an artist.
Right.
To John was asked to present at a TED Talk or a TED. And Chris Retlitz said, I know exactly the artist for you.
Wow.
And he got in contact with me, say, hey, would you be interested in this? And, the prison, they fought tooth and nail. It was getting a camera crew inside of San Quintin.
Yeah, you don't even think about that.
It had to go all the way up
Wow.
to Sacramento to get approvals because the wardens and prison administrators, they didn't approve of it. And so it happened, and here it is. John is in, I think the TED was in Vancouver, Canada, and he's introducing me, and I'm in San Quentin State Prison.
Jesus.
And
Is that crazy?
Crazy.
it really is crazy. And I do my spoken word spiel, and it was the feedback that I got from it was amazing. The millions upon millions of people that have seen that
Yeah.
TED Talk is
huge.
It really is. And so a month or so ago, I've been
I'm sorry. Well, I just want to pause right there, JC. Tell people exactly where to go to listen to your TED Talk.
So if you just Google JC Cavitt and John Legend, it should pop right up.
Okay. So everyone has a homework assignment, to go Google that, watch JC, our man, because he literally set world history here.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
So that was pretty cool. And now I'm excited because I'm getting ready to do a TEDx talk coming up in April as a free person, and so like, man, to do 2
Where's
TED
that going
Talks.
to be?
This is going to be in the Bay Area in Marin.
Okay.
And so with an organization called I Know as a Free Person.
That would be a good tagline, actually.
Yeah. Well, I want to be there if I can sneak in somehow. So JC, more bragging about you. You have a beautiful wife.
I do.
You have a beautiful son.
I do.
And I happen to know your son's a beautiful son because he plays the guitar.
Yes. Yes.
Talk about your family.
It's my rock.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would not be where I am today, especially post-release, without my wife and my son. Having someone in your corner that knows your ugliness, knows your story, and still embraces you.
Yeah.
Like, she helped me get through some dark times, even while I was in. And now we've been together for 10 years.
Oh.
And so I can't thank my wife enough. She has been amazing. Amazing.
She is amazing. She's she's super cool to hang out with.
Both of you guys are blessed. All three of you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean that, and when I talk to you, I get so wrapped up in business stuff. Full disclosure, JC comes into our firm here, and before COVID hit us, you're coming in pretty regularly, giving us some instruction, education. Speaking of education, executive education, we're all learning from you. I'm anxious now. This COVID, if you wait for COVID to be over, we're,
waiting forever.
We want to get back on that saddle because that's one thing I miss from the pre-COVID days. So you do executive education.
Yes.
You run the show with some big programs. I know at Cal State Fullerton and these other things you've mentioned. You've got a beautiful wife, beautiful son. You're graduating in May with honors, with a master's degree, and then you're headed off for a PhD.
Yes.
I know we were having breakfast or lunch or who knows what. And I said, Dr. JC sounds really good.
It does.
Yeah. It really does. So, I mean, just as Tanya and her family has inspired millions, I think I don't think you are inspiring millions.
For sure.
That's why I, as just kind of the, whatever I am here, facilitating this conversation.
Yeah.
And Tanya, have you ever done an interview like this ever before? You've been on Larry King and all kinds of networks and this and that. Have you ever sat down with somebody on the other end of the spectrum and had this conversation?
Like this? Just a dialogue like
this?
Well,
no. I'm talking about somebody who was murder and then convicted of murder.
No.
So we're making a little history here.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a great way to kick off a podcast.
I love it. And I know the message that a lot of people are going to receive is compassion and empathy and forgiveness and letting go. And, I think what we have in this conversation right now is so beautiful and it's so wonderful that I really hope people understand the power of that, and no judgment at all. I think this has just been this has been a gift. You've been a gift to me. And I'm so grateful that I've had this opportunity to meet you, because this must have been really hard for you. I mean,
It's hard for
all of us. Yeah.
It was hard,
Yeah.
but when I hear your story, it's so inspirational. It makes me want to go get my PhD. No, I'm kidding. But it's like, you're going to be moving mountains and making a huge change and a huge difference. I know you already are, but you're a remarkable human being. And I'm so proud of you that you didn't allow your life experience to hold you down. And there's this saying that I always, that I've said, don't make your life experiences your identity. Identify with them, but don't make it your identity.
That's beautiful.
It is. Thank you so
much.
And
you've done that. And so I hope people really understand the power of this relationship, this dialogue that we've had today, because this was basically history, making history. I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that not only is it history, but it's so beautiful because I think it's a good example of what the world needs today.
We do.
Because
we
have to be, there has to be a willingness to at least come to the table,
Yeah.
not with the intent to
Hurt.
criticize or hurt,
Yeah.
but to listen.
And
with
love.
open ears and even without the love yet, just
Yeah.
come with the willingness to listen
Yeah.
with an open heart, remove from judgment, bias, and let's have a conversation.
That's it.
That's
Just
beautiful.
have a conversation.
JC, you're the man of the hour. I'm going to give the last remaining time for you to just share whatever you want to share, but we're going to have you back. Like I say, you're always welcome here at our podcast.
Thank you,
With
Always.
open arms. I'll tell you, I'm going to just say this, and I'm going to turn over to you. Going to church every Sunday for decades, and then going to San Quintin prison, I don't know a better word than the spiritual experience of what I went through there, what I learned there, blew away. Excuse me, anything you can learn from a book, going to church, or anything. And a lot of that wisdom I got right from you. And that's why I knew without any doubt that you guys would connect. So
Yeah.
I really can't thank you enough for being here and sharing your time, your valuable time with us. I'm gonna let you say whatever is on your heart to share with our audience.
I'll be very short and sweet. Two
Okay.
things. One is for folks to really understand that hurt people really do hurt people.
Mhm.
And so we should have compassion. That's the first thing. And second would be, I would encourage folks to find their North Star. And I say that because back in the day with slaves, the North Star was an iconic figure during slavery when slaves were trying to escape to freedom. And although they used the North Star as a symbol, they knew that you can never reach the North Star. But on the darkest nights, no matter how difficult the terrain was, if they could look up and see the North Star and move in that direction, they knew that they were getting closer to their freedom.
That's
In
beautiful.
prison, I had to identify a North Star that was bigger than what I saw around me. That when the lockdowns and the stabbings and the riots and the death, I had to look up and find my North Star. And that North Star for me was my wife and my son.
Oh, shout
And
out
so
to your beautiful wife.
That those times where I had to bite my tongue and keep my hands in my pocket when I really wanted to ball my fist up, my North Star was bigger than that. And so I would encourage people now that no matter how dark it is, whatever it is you're going through, identify a North Star, because it really can give you the hope, the courage, the strength to continue to move forward and get out of that dark place.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't.
Can I steal that?
Yeah, we're both going to steal that.
I'm going to go.
Seriously.
Okay, where's my North Star?
Always give you some credit there, JC. I can't top that. Thank you, man.
Your
Seriously,
words are
man.
beautiful.
Absolutely.
All right. Post-traumatic thriving. We talk about the skills to dive, survive, or thrive.
The choice is yours.
See you next time.
That's right.
Thanks for supporting our podcast. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on your favorite social media. For books, merchandise, or to donate, visit CoreIQ.com. Post-Traumatic Thriving is produced by CoreIQ, a nonprofit with a mission to teach the life skills we all need but are not taught in school. CoreIQ and the Post-Traumatic Thriving podcast are for informational purposes only and do not provide medical or mental health advice. Always consult with your licensed medical and mental health care providers.